The other thing is that there are many quantified graphical interrelationships that one can actually put on a graph as trendline curves. So here we can have data that looks like a normal distribution, or some sort of non-linear correlation where it originally becomes linear and then it decreases, right? So it can also be what we call inverse U function. It goes by different names if you do medicine or psychology or economics or computer science, but it's the same kind of data pattern in terms of the goodness of fit here. Is that kind of distribution. There's also basic kind of linear lines where you increase one variable, the other increases linearly. So it's a kind of gradient dependent, just basic, fully positively correlated relationship. You can also have the opposite, where it's a decrease. As you increase one variable, the other one decreases. There's also the inhibition or loss or leaky systems, and here you would have something like a pseudo-sigmoidal curve that could represent anything where you increase the quantity of one parameter and the amplitude, and then there's a cost of diminishing returns after a certain point. There's some sort of resistance where it levels off, and adding more of input of that particular variable does not necessarily affect the other variable increase by a lot. So it kind of plateaus, it converges towards that particular threshold or limit. Of course, there's also semi-exponential curves and relationships. There's these sorts of kind of logarithmic or combinatorial relationships where initially it's kind of threshold gated, but then once you reach a certain point, it just exponentially rises. That describes many systems in nature. And also the polynomial curves with multiple ups and downs, with the sawtooth oscillations around an equilibrium point, some sort of steady state, but there's also oscillations, kind of cyclical, sinusoidal oscillations, where you can also have some sort of drift over time or space, and you can add to that stochastic random effects so there's variability. It becomes very difficult to analyze. You can actually deconstruct those components from the noisy artifacts through modeling systems, or modeling techniques rather. I can give examples of these later. There's also, when we look at psychological comparator systems in the brain, you can actually subdivide those into different kinds of parcellations and decision trees that also are very interesting rather. And you can of course plot averages, look at the skews, you can superpose them with other kinds of curves, look at the minimization and maximization points, so you can establish variable effectiveness optimality of this particular variable and optimize an actual system by looking at those mathematical variables. So it's deeply interesting and of great interest.